How did life originate? Would it emerge if we could move back in time and let events unfold in the same setting, or if the setting were duplicated on some other planet? If so, would it be the kind of life we know or something different? These are questions science has so far failed to answer. What we have instead is profusion of theories slanted by the scientific specializations, philosophical attitudes, and ideological biases of the authors. Two schools even go so far as to claim that the origin of life is not a valid problem for science to investigate. They do so for very different reasons, although both their reasons are rooted in the belief that life is an extremely improbable phenomenon, so improbable that, according to the creationists, that nothing short of direct divine intervention can explain the emergence of even the simplest of living organisms. The more rationalist believers in the improbability of life reject this claim, pointing it out that chance produces extremely improbable events all the time. However, for the very reason they are improbable products of chance, such events are unique and non reproducible, and therefore inaccessible to scientific investigation. To explain this point of view, I shall take an example from the game of bridge. Bridge is a card game played by four players with a deck of 52 cards, including 13 each of spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. The cards are shuffled and dealt around the table one by one. Suppose you're one of the players and you pick up all 13 spades. Without doubt, you would speak of a fantastic stroke of luck. You would be right. The odds of being dealt all 13 spades are 1 in 635 billion. Let armies of bridge players play day and night for centuries, and the 13 spades may never turn up even once. Indeed, to my knowledge, such an event has never been recorded in the annals of bridge. As the first recipient of this astonishing gift of chance, you would achieve instant world fame. Your name would appear in every bridge column and book, all very true and understandable, except that any other bridge hand has exactly the same probability of being dealt, 1 in 635 billion. Most hands, however, are not sufficiently spectacular to make history. Not that I have not taken into account in my estimate the cards the other players are getting. If the complete distribution of cards is to be specified, the probability is of the order of 1 in 50 billion billion billion. If all the human beings that ever existed had done nothing but play bridge day and night during their whole lives, the odds that a distribution dealt this evening at your bridge club had ever occurred before would still be very low. Yet in no bridge club do players exclaim at being witness to an extraordinarily improbable event every time the cards are dealt. This example illustrates the simple fact, not always recognized, that single events of very low probability take place all the time without anybody paying any notice unless there is something special about the event. The emergence of life, it has been said, could have been such an event, a fantastic stroke of luck, like getting 13 spades at bridge, but no transgression of the laws of probability. If this was so, we would be wasting our time trying to explain the origins of life in scientific terms. A number of eminent scholars have made this claim. Some have even published it to its logical conclusion that if life is a highly improbable product of chance, it has no place in any sort of cosmological view we may entertain. Let billions of planets go through the same history as that of the Earth. Let even billions of Big Bangs give rise to billions of universes similar to ours. Nowhere would there be life. Its emergence was a cosmic joke. In the words of the late Jacques Monod, one of the greatest French biologists, the universe was not pregnant with life. This statement has profound philosophical implications. This I shall address later. For the time being, I wish merely to examine the scientific validity of the probability argument. Its logic is impeccable, provided we're dealing with a single event. But the emergence of life cannot possibly have happened as a single event. To illustrate this impossibility, Hoyle has used the analogy of Boeing 747 arising ready to fly from a tornado swept junkyard. The possibility of a living cell coming together in one shot is immeasurably less plausible than the spontaneous assembly of Boeing 747, if degrees of impossibility are to be envisaged. Only instant creation, a miracle, could accomplish such feats, and miracles, by definition, fall outside the boundaries of scientific investigation. They are a last resource when all attempts at rational explanation have failed, a point, incidentally, that is difficult to identify, since the explanation may have to await new knowledge, as has so often been the case in times past. But we are far from having reached such a point with respect to the origin of life. The field is burgeoning with abundance, almost a surfeit of informative facts and stimulating ideas. A Boeing 747 is built piecemeal in a very large number of steps. Raw materials are first refined or synthesized and worked into a multitude of separate parts. These are then joined in a modular fashion to make the engines, the body and wings, the flaps, the landing gear, the electronic circuits, and all the other parts of the aircraft. These various parts are then brought together to final assembly. The steps in the construction of a living cell are different, but the principles is the same. Because of the high complexity of the final part, there must by necessity be a very large number of steps, often modular in nature. This consideration completely alters the probability assessment. We are being dealt 13 spades not once but thousands of times in succession. This is utterly impossible unless the deck is doctored. What this doctoring implies with respect to the assembly of the first cell is that most of the steps involved must have had a very high likelihood of taking place under the prevailing conditions. Make them even moderately improbable and the process must abort. However, many times is it initiated because of a very number of successive steps involved. In other words, contrary to Monod's affirmation, the universe was, and presumably still is, pregnant with life. To me, this conclusion is inescapable. It is based on logic, not on priori philosophical tenet. It does not, however, imply that the emergence of life followed a rigid, preordained course. Even less does it mean that only one kind of life was or is possible. There is room in a deterministic pathway for bifurcations, alternative routes, accidents, even chaos, just as there are many ways for rainwater to run down a mountain. What counts are the constraints of the terrain. A smooth top can lead in many directions. Even a pebble can alter the course of a rivulet. On the other hand, a crater leading into a gorge will force water to flow in a single direction.